email saya. Meaning that you did not know me. Okay. Okay. I'm not sure that mana tahu nama saya pun tak tahu kan. So you need to know where to find my email. Okay. Takkan tak tahu. Dekat mana dapat email saya kan. So jangan tanya saya. So bila you tanya saya apa email saya means that you do not know your lecturer. You're not interested to know your lecturer. Thank you, Afifah. Okay. 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 Wait, let me check that you seen my screen. Okay. So let us revise back, okay, what we have learned so far and followed the SOW. Okay. So I did show this to the group A or group B yesterday. Group A, right? So group A that already have their tutorial sessions or lab sessions. Okay, so now we are in week 8, right? So we going through week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So actually we are in week 8 here, right? We should learn a new topic today, software constructions. Okay, and then in tutorial sessions we will have a class diagram. Okay, however, okay, because of last week we covered most on the test, so actually I have a few more to cover in software design. I'm not sure that you're aware or not. I'm not finished yet on the software design. Okay, just now we are in the principles only. We are not going through the architecture, right? So I will touch the software design too, which is on the architecture. Okay, and for normally we have a lecture first, and then only you have a lab sessions. So next week's your tutorial sessions or lab sessions is on the activity, sequence, and class diagram. Okay, so for today, I will complete the software design first. Okay, don't worry because we're still in the track. Okay, so if you can see here, we have software verifications and validations for 2 weeks. Okay, and then evolutions also in 2 weeks. So enough for us to cover back. Okay, don't worry. We have done assessment 1, test 1. How was it? Is it too hard? Okay. Boleh lah, kan? Atau easy. Which one? Boleh buat semua. Okay, because I already give you everything, right? I give you the tips, right? And you also can bring your notes together in your exam. Okay. So remember, we have assessment 2. If you can see here, we should start the assessment 2 where you have your SRC. Group A that done the lab sessions yesterday already know what to do. Okay. In tutorial sessions, okay, I will give you the SRC system requirement or system review template. So you need to put back all the proposal that have been approved for your project, okay, in the SRS format, okay, and it's stated here video. Okay, this is for your video teaser, video trailer, video summary. Okay, this one will be presented at the end of your assessment lah, in your final presentations. Okay, but you should start produce it lah. So the video is consists of your project teaser where you have your problem, solutions, and the call to actions. Call to actions mean that after watch the video, what's next? You will guide us to go through the features, functions of the projects, or you guide us to go to your website to see the details of the projects. Okay, So later on, we will discuss about this in the lab. Okay. So this week you already start doing your SRS lah actually. Okay. But if you check the template later on, okay. So to inform group B tomorrow, okay, I will not in the class, so I will give you to have freely discussions with your group member, okay. Check in the future, okay. Download the SRS template, okay, and discuss in your team member, okay, who will do which part and discuss what to do, okay, in your project on the SRS. And attendance will be taken, so you can choose either go to the lab for physical discussion, or you also can do online. Okay, make sure you discuss SRS among your team member, okay, and don't forget to sign in attendance. So anything, please ask in the WhatsApp group, okay, because tomorrow I have a conference in Malacca here. So I might not attend the class, but the class will, the lab lah, will continue. As I mentioned, it's on the group discussions for your project. Okay, so if you have problems or any questions along your discussions, you can ask me in the WhatsApp group. Okay, so I can answer the questions even though I'm in the conference session. All right. So make sure sign in attendance and do the discussions. Okay, it's up to you. You want to do discussions 1 hour or utilize all the 2 hours, but you should have the discussion among your team member, either virtual or physical. It's up to you, right? Okay. Okay. Next week we will cover the software construction. So the SRS, if you refer the templates, you can continue with all the contents until the use case diagram, okay, and use case description lah. And there is a sessions next to do the activity diagram. That one put on hold, okay, because after you learn about this activity sequence and class, then only you can put in your SRS. Okay, the submission will be in week 10. However, if you want me to check first, okay, you can submit me before the due. Okay, submit, not submit in your future. Don't submit in the future for comment. Submit in the WhatsApp group lah, your WhatsApp group. Okay. Any questions, especially for group B lah? Ada soalan tak group B? Okay. Esok saya tak ada, kan? Tak ada. Faham kan? Esok saya tak ada. Tapi the lab session still continue, okay, with your group discussion. Okay. Tak apa kalau you nak buat half an hour or 1 hour, but make sure you did the discussion and sign in attendance. Okay. Right. But if you have any questions while doing your lab sessions, you can PM me lah. You can WhatsApp me in your WhatsApp group. All right. If no questions from group B, okay, let's continue our lecture today on the software design. Share the screen first. Okay. Right. A little bit need to cover on the design. Okay. I hope you still remember the topic that we cover before your mid-sem break, okay, which is software design principle. Kan? Ingat lagi tak? Software design principle, the process, the stages, the concept, okay, and also the attribute, right? So continue with that. If you see in the lecture note, you will see 3 slides, 3 lecture note to covering the topic of software design. Okay, so this part, the second part, is talking about the architectural design. Do you still remember the architectural design in which part in software design? Ada tak yang masih ingat lagi? Dalam software design, we have the process, right? And then the stages. Okay, both process and stages have this architectural design. Let's talk about the stages lah. The stages, you have the design input, and then you have the design activities, and then you have a design output, right? So where architectural design? Input ke, activity ke, ataupun output? Which part? Kalau yang masih ingat lagi lah. Ingat lagi tak? Tak ada seorang pun ingat. Okay, in software design principle, you have output. Okay, tak apa, salah we learn from the mistake, right? Bukan output. Okay, so we have the process where we have 2, 4, 6, 6 process. Okay, first is the architectural design. Okay, but to go deep on the stages, so this process is divided into 3 stages. Okay, the design input, the design activities, and also the design output. So architectural should be in the activities lah. Okay, activities. Okay, design activities. Okay, so by end of this topic, the second part of software design, you've been introduced. Okay, what is architectural design, and discuss why it's important. Okay, and explain. Okay, you may explain the architectural design decisions that you may need to choose which one. Okay, and then introduce the 3 complementary architectural styles. Okay, which is covering the organizations, decomposition, and control. And finally, discuss reference architecture that used to communicate and compare others architectures. Okay, this is the stages. Still remember? Okay, so we have 3 stages here. The design input, where you need to have the platform information, requirement specifications, and data descriptions. Now we are in design phases. Okay, so design activities here. First, architectural design. And then we have interface design, component design, and finally, database design. Right, so we are here, architectural design. Okay, so what is architectural design? So architectural design is critical links where you link between requirement and design. Right, so the word architectural design. So after you complete your requirement, okay, you want to design, right? But before you design, you need to have something to follow up, right? So requirement is you get all the requirement, and then from the requirement you move to design. So this is a part of architectural. So it's provide some related set of services, identify this subset, or we call it some of framework lah, framework, approach, method. Okay, something that you need to follow. So that's why we call it framework lah. The output of this design process is software architecture, where the software architecture is important for stakeholder communications, system analysis, and purpose if we have a large scales, which may reuse again the same architectural design. So again, what is design? Remember, design is the first level, which is effectively to make your stakeholder understand, give a reason, and communicate through the design, either in high fidelity or low fidelity, right? So normally we sketch and then we follow up with our stakeholder. Is this the design? Is it the system that you want us to do? Something like that. Okay, or is this the interface that you meant it in your requirement, something like that. So it's a high level model when we start to develop a software system. High level here means it's can describe the structure, the function, the characteristic of the system, and make your it's a communications tool between you and your stakeholder. So to make your stakeholder understand, okay, allow evaluations of the system properties, meaning that if you have the list of the requirement, it can show you and it can check all the requirement is fulfilled based on the design. Okay, and then provide well understood tools and techniques for constructing the things from its blueprint. Sometimes we can call it as a storyboard, right? So it's up to the communications using the high fidelity or low fidelity. Okay, or sometimes we call it in blueprint lah. So motivating software architecture, meaning that the reason why we need to have a software architecture. We have two perspectives here. For organizations, it's for communications between your company and also your stakeholder. Okay, provision of the system context. Okay, to make sure to have a list that to make sure that the list is fulfilled the project that they want to develop. Okay, work allocations. Okay, who will do that? Who will do this? Right. So you should have the overview of what kind of tasks that you need to distribute to your team member, team group, right? In technical perspective, it's good if we have a large scale that we can use the software architecture from the past, okay, and it can be duplicate, reuse it, okay. For system analysis, where it can fulfill and can confirm meet the requirement and also objective. Flexible, okay, where this is the communications between the communication tools between you and your stakeholder. So it can be flexible, where when you go back to your stakeholder, it can be modified, it can be fixed. Because this is just architecture, okay. Reduce evolutions, okay, meaning that we try not to modify it, change it mostly, okay, because after we plan it, we should follow the plan, something like that, rather than you don't have a plan, okay, and then when you develop, it will taking a cost, it will taking your times where you need to redevelop again, right? So if you have this software architecture, you know what's in the planning and what to develop based on the planning, rather than you don't have the planning, just develop it and it might not fulfill the user's requirement or the stakeholder needs, okay. So when we talk about architectural designs, it's a decision maker, okay, decision making, okay, decision making to answer a few questions. Is there a general application architecture that can act as a template? All these questions might be questions. So architecture design supposedly can help to answer all the questions. So this is a few questions might be asked before you start a project, right? How will the system be distributed? What architecture styles are appropriate? What approach that we need to use to structure the system? All these questions lah, commonly been asked. So architectural design is kind of creative process. Okay, why we say creative? It's problem solving, critical thinking, and currently, okay, we are talking about the design thinking. So it's the same thing, okay? Creative process where the process is depend what type of the system that you want to develop, okay? So system architecture will affect some of this, okay? If you have or if you don't have. So system architecture affect the performance, okay, meanings localized critical operations within a small number of a subsystem with as little communication as possible between this system. Okay, if you to make sure that your project perform right, so you try to localize critical operations. Maybe you can put it as a subsystem. Okay, so rather than looking into the overall system, put it in subsystem. Okay, and make it as localized as the subsystem, so that easy for you to monitor. Okay, to go through one by one, or easy to explain to you, put it in phase by phase, right? So after the one phase, second phase, third phase, so you know that the flow, something like that. That's why localize it or break into the subsystem. For security reason, okay, it will affect the security, where if you have a system architecture that have a layered structure, okay, so it will help, okay, increase the high level of the security validations. Okay, next, safety, okay, where you can add a safety related operations, okay, to your subsystem. Availability, include redundant component, okay, that might be possible to replace or update the component, okay, without stopping the system. Okay, with the system architecture, you already know the availability, right? If the technology is not available, resource is not available, you might update, you might change. If the technology also change, you can update the component. So it can include redundant component. Maintainability, the system architecture should be designed using fine-grained and self-contained component. If anything happen, you already know. Okay, anything changes, anything update. Okay, so it's self-contained component. And there is a potential conflict between some of these styles. The styles, the different style of architecture. Okay, so let's look into the real situations. Look at this bus stop. This is bus stop, right? Okay, so and the below part is the different type of house. Okay, let's look the first example first. Bus stop. Okay, if you see the architecture, the design, or the architecture design is different. Why this bus stop is designed like this different style? Anyone can have a can give a reason why um, there is a different architecture in the business, in the bus stop. Yes, because of the cuaca. Yes, maybe this one is overseas, right? So it can be the weather. Yes. Okay. Any reason? Any other reason? Why the seat is like this one? You can stand or you can sit, and but the seat is just a single seat, or with the fully apa ni? Fully utilized with advertisement or without the advertisement. Why? Why is differently? Why it transparent? Why is covered? So every architecture have their own reason. It, thank you. Those respond in the chat just now. Yes, one of it is because of the weather, because of the culture. What else? Apa lagi selain daripada tu? Anything else? Mesti ada kan? Kekerapan bas. Can be. Maybe that place frequent kan? Frequent bus selalu lalang. But that place, sometimes that place is very mindset. Mindset. Can be also mindset. Actually, mindset is most close to the culture lah kan? Localized. Depend on the local area kan? Ideal locations. Right? Okay, ideal locations. Okay. So see, there is many reasons why. That's why we have a different architecture. Similar with house, the below part here, house. Okay, why it was designed like this one, and this one. Same thing, right? Might be because of the culture, because of the weather or season in that country. What do you think if you normally if we go to a housing place, right? Housing taman kan, housing place. Okay, you can see that all the houses is same pattern, kan? So pergi taman lain, pattern lain lagi. Dekat tempat yang sama, sama pattern. Betul tak? Kalau dekat different place, different pattern. So why? What is the reason? Instead of kalau tadi kita cakap pasal culture is a different country kan, macam ni different country, different weather season, okay. Kalau macam satu Malaysia lah kan, dekat Melaka kawasan perumahan dia lain bentuk dia kan, you pergi Johor bentuk rumah dia lain, you pergi mana lagi, Selangor, KL lain lagi bentuk rumah dia, modern, satu lagi macam historical. So why it was designed like that? Okay. So it's same thing with software, developing a software or system. Okay. So you already learn about the process, right? So using a same process, right? Using a same process, you will develop a same product, right? So is that good to have a similar system, similar software? Or do you think we should variety it, make it different from one system to one system? There is a reason, right? There is a reason. Why? If you go one place, every houses is same pattern. You go to other place, different design with the first that you saw in the different place. Kan? Sama dekat tempat yang sama tapi different dekat location yang berbeza. Sama juga you buat system. Okay? Sometimes when we create a system or software, it have a same purpose. Example that e-commerce, right? Just the e-commerce have different type of company. That company jual tudung je, baju saja, kasut saja, kan? But all that are e-commerce. What else? System HR. Every company have their own HR system, right? Or we call it human resource. HR system, human resource. Okay. Every company have their own department of human resource. Okay. Same. Taking staff, pay salary, same, right? But the size of the staff, how they calculate the salary might be different, right? So there is a reason why there is a pattern, same pattern, and why it's a different style. Okay, so let's go through one by one. So let's talk first about the process. Okay, so common activity for the process is these three activities here. First, modular decomposition. Each system get decomposed into modules. You know, if you develop a system, you have your own module, right? Example, you want to create an e-learning system. There is a module for students, module for lecturer, right? Okay, but different university might have a different module, but the use is same thing, e-learning system. Okay, second, system structuring, decomposing into interacting subsystem, how you structure the system. And finally, how to control modeling, establish of the control relationship. Okay, so this is the common activities of architectural design: decompose, structure, and modeling. Okay, so decompose is the first step. Okay, it's useful to communicate. It's a project planning lah. Actually, it's a project planning. So let's go on the styles. Okay, so we have different type of architecture. Remember just now we use housing and also bus stop as an example. So every houses have a different style, right? Architecture this style, different style also. So same thing with software or system development. They have different architectural styles. Okay, there is three models. Okay, for styles, architectural styles. One of it is structural. Okay, structure. The word structured, you know, the structured, right? So we have three type of structured model. repository, client-based, and layered or abstract machine type. Okay, for control style, we have two types, centralized control and also event-based control. Third, domain-specific architecture. We have two options, data flow, or sometimes we call it pipeline, pipe and filter. Okay, and another one, object-oriented. Okay, we will go through style by style after this, right? So let's go through the structural model first. Okay, in structural model, first we have repository, right? In structural, first repository. So this is the style of repository. Subsystem making up a system must exchange informations via a common repository. All shared data is held in a central databases. Okay, so this model is suited to applications where data is generated by one subsystem and used by another, meaning that have a multi-user. Common data model must be followed. So this is project repository. Repository model. Repository model. So this is example in the visual lah. Project repository. So instead have a code, design translator, design analysis, generator, and also editor. So for you to understand, repository means it have a central database. Okay. So the advantage for repository, efficient. Okay, because efficient lah if you have a share large amount of data because all centralized. Subsystem need to be concerned with how data is produced. Okay, so depend on the subsystem lah. What the subsystem can produce the data. Okay, centralized management. Okay, sharing model. Okay, because it's centralized, right? And then it sharing with the others. The disadvantage, okay, subsystem must agree on a repository data because it's centralized, right? So you must agree with the centralized. So it will happen inevitably a compromise, different understanding, different communications, right? So it will happen. Data evaluations will have a difficulty and expensive. The cost is expensive. Okay, because when data evolutions, meaning that you want to move to another technology, for example, because you are using a centralized, right? You need to overhaul lah, or we call it overhaul, kan? Overhaul the whole centralized. So it's take much more cost lah, expensive. Okay, no scope for specific policies. Okay, because it's centralized, so no scope. Okay, difficult to distribute efficiency. Depend on the subsystem. Just now, subsystem must agree, right? So difficult. Okay, because it's depend on the subsystem created. Okay, next, under structural model, we have client server. Okay, this is the visual of client server. You have network request, client request something, and from the database, catalog server, video server, picture server, web server, depend on the client lah. Okay, so a system model is organized as a set of service and associate server and client that access and use the services. Client may have to know the available server. So you should know, right, what is the available server and what kind of service that they provide. Server need not know neither the identity of the client. Client must know what the system can do and what they can provide, right? But as a server, you don't know who are requesting, who is the client, who is the identified client. Okay, and server also cannot require service because it based on what they are service for. Okay, so that's the client server model. Okay, the advantage, distribution data is straightforward because if you request for catalog server, it goes to the catalog library catalog only. Okay, if you request for video server, is request directly to their own database. Effective? Yes, effective because it's direct, straightforward, right? So it's quite cheaper lah. If you want to change one database, you did not interrupt the others. Okay, easy. If you want to add or you want to remove. Okay, wait. Okay. Alright. Okay. Sorry. Disadvantage: no share data model. Okay, because it's meant to each of the function. Okay. Redundant management might happen, right? Because it's separate function, might be redundant lah. Okay. No central register. If you can see, it's no centralized, right? So it's have a different own database. Okay. Next, the last for structural model is the layered model. Okay, layered. You know the word layered, right? It have a layer by layer. Okay, so a system is organized into a series of layers. That's why we call it layered. Okay, changes to one layer do not affect other layer. If you change one layer, so the other layer is remain the same. If you want to remove it, so the others will not affected lah. Okay, alright. Okay, done the structural model. Now we go to the second one. What is the second one just now? Second one, okay, control. Okay, control style. Okay. Now control style. Okay. In control style, we have two types. Okay. One is centralized. Okay. Control, right? Control. So something have a control lah, control system. So that's why centralized. Okay. So called written model. Okay, one subsystem is designed as system controller. Ni dia punya head kan. Something like that. This head and this is the control system lah. Control one. Okay. It may also devolve control to another subsystem, but we expect to have this control responsibility written to it, suitable for sequence system lah. Sequence system, good lah, to have a centralized control. Or like this one. Okay, you have a manager model here in the center, so it control all the process. Okay. Another option that we have for control model, event driven. Okay, event driven, for example, broadcast model. So it based on event. The word event means that it based event lah, real time event. Okay, or based on what is required lah, depend on the event. So this is the example. Okay, subsystem 1, I am interested in event 1. Subsystem 2, event, others event and message handler. Subsystem 3, subsystem 4. So it based on event. Okay, it's quite similar with just now, what we have just now. This one, client server base, right? Client server base. Okay, but this one is structured. For this is this one is control, right? Control. So it based on event. So it control based event. So that's why event driven. Okay. Another option, another example is interrupt driven model. Okay. So each element is dedicated to each interrupt type number. So in control model, okay, where each element is dedicated and handling for one process. Okay. The last model we have is domain specific. Okay, domain specific architecture model. Okay. In this domain specific also we have two types. Okay. Object oriented or object model and data flow. Okay, data flow, or sometimes we call it pipeline or pipe and filter. So object-oriented model are object with private state and defined operations on that state. But in the data flow module are functions, transformations. Okay, so details on the data flow. This is example of data flow. The word data flow, you know, right? The flow of the data. Okay, so also known as a pipeline, meaning that to read issues invoice, so you need to identify the payment first. Okay, and then after that, only issues receipt been issued, or find payment due, and then you have the reminder, send the reminder. Data flow, so it requests based on the features, flow by flow. Okay, the characteristics: support transformation reuse, intuitive organizations for stakeholder, easy to add new transformations, relative simple to implement. Okay, however, require a common format for data transfer along the pipeline, and difficult to support event-based interaction, because sometimes one event is different to another, right? That's why it's quite difficult lah to support if there is more than one event based. Okay? Another example for data flow. Okay. Alright. So instead of the style, we also have a pattern. Remember just now, some location have same pattern kan? Rumah dia sama. Tapi bila kita pergi lokasi berbeza, dia punya style berbeza, right? So there is a pattern as well. So what is pattern? Pattern are mean of representing, sharing, and reusing. Pattern, sama kan pattern? An architectural pattern is a style description of good design practice, okay, which has been tried and tested. Meaning that if you already have a good pattern, which is the good design practice, so it's mean already been verified and validated, tried and test lah. Okay, and then you can adapt or adopt to another system that might have a similar pattern. Macam rumah tadi lah, kalau you pergi tengok rumah kawasan perumahan ni, okay, rumah ni orang minat beli kan, mungkin dia punya style menarik. So ada kemungkinan ada developer follow the pattern. Rumah dia dia punya bumbung tinggi ke, atau bumbung dia rata ke. So sometimes there is a pattern to be reused or copy. Okay. But pattern may be represented using tabular and graphic descriptions in terms of software ni lah, or software development. Okay, so there is only one pattern in this example, model view controller. Okay, so you have the model. Okay, model, the model either to control the stage of the model, or you can view it. This one is model view controller. Actually, it's a lot more pattern that we have. For this is only giving you one example. Okay, so MVC, okay, model view controller. So description, separate presentation and interaction from the system data. Example, as shown the figure just now, when used when there are multiple ways to view and interact with the data. Advantage, allow the data to change independently of its representations and also vice versa. Disadvantage, can involve additional code and code complexity when the data model and interaction are simple. So this is why we want to use MVC. Okay, so this advantage and disadvantage lah. Another example of MVC is using Ruby on Rails. Okay, so Rail view, Rail model, Rail controller, then the browser. So this one is the pattern that already verified lah, test and try and test. Okay, so we are going towards the end. Okay, so far in this architectural design, you've been introduced 3 terminologies. One is architectural styles. Second, architectural patterns. Third, design pattern or software framework. Okay, but you don't have to remember lah. You should know the terminology or differentiate what is style, what is pattern, and what is framework. Okay, style we have. How many style we have for architectural design just now? How many style? Lupa dah. How many style we have? Three. Yes, three. Structural, okay, control, and domain specific. Kan? So each of the style have more types lah. Structural, repository, client server, layered, right? For controller, centralized, event based, and domain specific is the object oriented and data flow, right? And then pattern. Pattern, you only have one MVC, right? But you understand what is pattern. Okay, pattern is you reuse it, same things lah, reuse it. Okay, design pattern or software framework. Sometimes we have the framework. This is the framework lah given. This is example. So mostly when we talk about framework, sometimes you found the word model right at the back. Sometimes you found the word framework. Okay, normally model is already established. People already apply it, use it many times. It's ni lah known. Okay, known model. Framework normally is not so common. Okay, it's still in developing lah. Might be someone develop and another one adapting it, and then improve it. So it's still in improving. After it's established, everyone common with the framework, it can become the model. Something like that lah. So you know, model what, framework what, right? Okay. Something like that. This is style, different type, right? So this have pattern, say similar pattern, right? So framework is something like that lah. If you create a framework for museum, reka bentuk museum kan. So kalau you perasan reka bentuk museum semuanya lebih kurang macam bentuk-bentuk macam ni. Ataupun you buat reka bentuk rumah-rumah di Melaka. So dia follow one framework saja. Jadi something similar things. Okay. Alright, so for key point or summary, okay, the software architecture is the fundamental framework for structure the system. Right. So architectural design decision include decisions on the applications and also the distributions and style to be to be used. Okay. Different architecture model, we have three types. The style, structural, control, and decomposition. This one is different architectural model. This one is the structural, control, and decompose. This is a process, right? Wait. Supposedly this is the process. Decompose, structural, and control. Okay, and this one is system organizations model, include repository, client base, abstract machine. This one is structural, right? Structural style. And this one, modulo decompositions, object model and data flow is the second style, which is the control. What is the second? The domain specific, right? Domain specific object and data flow. Okay, and last style is the control model. We have centralized or event driven. Okay, so this one, reference architecture may be used to communicate domain specific, access and compare. So why we have a reference architecture? Okay, because we can use it, follow it, reuse it lah. That's why it's domain specific. Sometimes you create an architecture, like just now I give example of e-commerce. Okay, so only the domain is different, right? So the e-commerce might sell clothes, but the other company might use the e-commerce system for selling other things, shoes and so on. So domain specific lah. So only the domain is different. Similar with your project lah, you have different type of domain project, right? Sometimes everyone do a booking system, but one group is doing a ticket booking system. One group is doing what homestay or hotel booking system. Another group are doing what other booking system? Bus, ticket booking system. So different domain. Okay. Alright. So let's have a third. This one is the third part of software design. Applications on the architecture. Okay, after we understand the style, the process of architecture design, now let's look into the applications. Okay, applications of architecture. Okay, generic applications architecture. Generic application architecture. Application system are designed to meet an organization's need. Right, you develop or you create a project should be meet the requirement or need of your stakeholder. Okay, as business have much in common, their application system also tend to have a common architecture. Just now the house. The purpose is to make sure that people can stay in the house, right? Can live in the house. So the architecture, same thing. Every house must have a bathroom, kitchen, living room. That's the common architecture lah. So same things with system. If the system is created for booking system, so it should have a same module. How to book, the booking page, and then the payment system. So common. So the common architecture is actually reflect the application requirement, the purpose of the system lah. What the system is meant to use lah. Like that just now, booking system is to book, right? To book something, right? So it have their own requirement. You should need to have the availability, the payment sections, the security. A generic architecture is configured and adapt to create a system that meet specific requirement. Use of applications, use of application architecture as a starting point, checklist, a way of organize your work, as a mean of assessing component, and as a vocabulary. Meaning that application architecture, you need to have architecture should have a planning, right? Starting point. Or it can be your checklist. Okay. To have a booking system, you should have this hardware and software, example lah. Easy for you to know how to organize a work because you know the flow, how to create the booking system, for example lah. Okay, and as a vocabulary, boleh jadi dictionary lah to follow. Reference book lah, something like that, reference book. Okay, so applications types. Okay, there is a few application types. Okay, one of it is application types mean that same category or same group of system. Okay, one is data processing applications. Okay, is data driven applications that process data in batches without explicit user intervention during the processing. For example, billing system, payroll system. So data processing application is meant for data driven. Okay, we will go the example later on. Let's go through the type first. Second types of applications of architecture can be used for transaction processing applications. Okay, so it's data-centered application that process user requests and update information. Example, e-commerce and also reservation system. Easy for you to remember, the one that I like, data processing applications is mostly data process. Involve data-driven, data process. Transaction processing application involve user. User request something, user want to update something. Okay. Next, event processing system. Application where system action depend on interpreting event from system environment. For example, word processor, real-time system. Event processing system ni, example macam you create a system, PowerPoint, Word, kan? So they have their own purpose. You want to type a document, so you use a Word, kan? Word. You want to calculate, maybe you can use Excel. You want to create a simple database access. So it have their own action lah, purpose. Action depend. That's why it called event processing system. Number 4, language processing system. Macam Google Translator kan. Application where the user's intention, this one involve users. Users' intentions are specified in a formal language that is processed and interpreted by the system. This one macam AI kan. So it can interpret interpretations. So example compiler, command interpreter, or macam Google Translator. Okay. So let's go through one by one. Data processing system. Okay. So this is the type of system that normally people do. So later on, you can identify your project is under which one, right? If there is fall under one of the types lah. Okay. So number 1, data processing system, data center. Data center. So it should have data is input and output in batches. Something like that. System have input, process, output, okay, and have a database. Okay. So data process system usually have input, process, output structure. Okay, so the input is a component read data, the process is component to take a transaction, the output is component to read the record, macam printer kan, printer. Printer is read what you want to print and then process it and output the paper, right? Okay. Next, transaction processing. Example is middleware. Okay, middleware is kind of ATM machine. Okay, ATM machine. So transaction management middleware or teleprocessing monitor handle communication with a different terminal types. Example, ATM, counter terminal, okay, serials data and send it for processing. So this involve query processing. Okay, query processing in the system database, and in result it sent back through the transaction manager to the user's terminal or the one that required lah. Okay, macam you nak ambil duit kan, you masukkan card, okay, and then it's processed and it will bring the money to you. Another example for transaction just now, information system architecture. Okay, so IS, developing a information system, IS also have user interface, user communications, information retrieval, and also the transaction database. If you want to create a website, which is been called information system, right? So it should have the interface that people query the data, right? And then there is a back end that process the request, okay, and then the transaction happen on the database sending the request. Okay, so it have layers, include this the one that I mentioned just now lah. Okay, resource location system, okay, another transaction. Example that ticket rental system, okay. And another example, timetabling system, library system, air traffic control. Okay. Okay. So all this system is remember that the second one is involve users, right? So it should have the user interface. Okay, user interface is the communication tools lah between the human and also the system. That's why it should have the user interface. Just now, IS also have the user interface because the system is communicate with the user. So it should have the user interface. Okay. Another thing is e-commerce system. E-commerce system is also transaction. Okay, transaction where you have the web browser, and then we have a website. Okay, to search what kind of product that you want to buy, right? So it interact with the user as well, right? Okay. Okay. Third one is event processing system. Okay, event processing system. Remember the one that I mentioned just now, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, right? It based on the event. So example here, word processor, game, it have their own purpose. Okay. Okay. Editing system. Okay, editing system also is event processing. Okay, so editing system is a real-time system, and editing system are the most common type of event processing processing system. Okay? Okay, last one. Okay, language processing system. Okay, remember that I give example of Google just now. So language processing system include artificial language. Dia ada AI kan dalam dia, because it accept a natural or artificial language as input and generate some other representations that translate based on the user intention just now. Okay, so it have artificial language. Okay, so component inside the language processing, because it's AI, so it have lexical analyzer, symbol table, syntax analysis. This one is based on what kind of AI being used lah. Syntax tree, semantic analyzer, code generator. Okay, right. So we have 4 applications just now, right? So let's refresh back. One is data processing system. It's data driven. Must be have input, process, output. Second, transaction processing system, where it involve user. Okay, involve user is transaction processing. It can be e-commerce, it can be a booking system, as long as involve user. Third, event processing system, software that have their own purpose, editor, and it's real time lah, editor, word processing, PowerPoint, kan? Okay. Last, language processing system, using a artificial because it have the translations inside it, so it have a specific instruction interpretation lah, kan? Okay, that's all. That's all for architectural design. So boleh dapat tak? So again, let me repeat. In software design, okay, we have a few stages. First is the process lah. Architectural design is a part of software design. Okay, in architectural design, okay, not only include the process but also easy for us to understand in design stages. It will be the second stages where the design activities get involved. Okay, so you have architecture design. So in architectural design, you have how many process architectural design? 3 also, right? The decomposition, structuring, and control. Boleh ingat? And then, how many style we have? Again, 3, right? Structural, control, domain, specific. Okay, and others effect why we need architectural design, perform security, safety, that one lah. Okay, and lastly, we also have a pattern for reference. For architecture is also a reference lah. Okay, so normally, okay, because sometimes kan when the industry is looking for a staff, right? Normally you should know all this process, right? The design process, the architectural design. Okay, but most of the company now realize actually we don't need the fixed principle. Yeah? Macam you use a process like a waterfall, right? So if you use the same things, so the output will be the same, right? Okay, so they realize it. We should consider users because all the system, all the software is developed for users, right? So who will be use it? Users. Users will be use your system that you develop. That's why important to add on or must be considered from beginning until the end users. That's why now is in demand lah. UX researcher, UX designer. Even some of my friends who already in the university lah, being a lecturer, okay, try to take a challenge lah, go to industry, become a UX researcher. Okay, but for me, I want to become a lecturer because I want to create more UX researcher. Okay, boring kan kalau buat benda yang sama saja kan, maksud saya kan. So dengan adanya UX researcher ni, okay, we know that people have a different perception, different needs kan. Even your generation and my generation is also have a different needs. Mungkin zaman you all ni suka apps sahaja kan, ataupun suka main game. Sampai saya pun tak terkejar game-game yang you all follow ni kan. Saya main Candy Crush tu saya main lah kan. So because of different perceptions, different users, our system is must follow users also. Kata orang, it's hard to make a system that all fit one kan. Semua orang boleh guna satu je sistem. Memang impossible. But actually there is a pattern lah. That's my research in my PhD before. Okay, saya punya research macam ni. Okay, kita tengok website semua sama kan? Semua orang fikir website sama je kan? So how they develop? You tengok, actually they have their own. Kalau developer ni, dia ada dia punya framework ataupun dia ada dia punya guide. Dia follow je macam tu kan? Kita boring. Benda yang sama saja. Betul tak? Because for my finding, we should revise the principles, the framework every 5 years, because the change of new generations, new needs, new culture, new environment might influence kan, influence. Macam saya buat dalam website, okay? Dalam website actually kita susah kita nak fulfill all the needs of users kan, because ada pelbagai-bagai users kan. So my research is try to find a pattern, okay? Pattern for ASEAN country that feel compatible, you feel suitable with the website, you feel convenience to use the website, okay? Pernah tak you pergi website, you rasa macam susah lah nak guna website ni, you tahu user friendly je kan, oh website ni tak user friendly. Sebenarnya itu ialah UX lah, UX, okay? So my research is to find a pattern, okay? Memang we agree that one size cannot fit all, but we can create a pattern. Macam kita susun perabot dekat rumah kan, okay? Kadang-kadang even your parents kan different gender, mak dengan ayah different gender kan. Lebih-lebih mak dan ayah ni minat pula menghias rumah kan. Your father might have a different style how to arrange furniture in the house, right? And come in your mother, belum lagi masuk anak ni antara mother dengan father je. So might have a different style of how to arrange the furniture in the house, right? But actually we can come up with one pattern yang mana mak rasa selesa, bapak rasa selesa, right? Something like that. That's why my research is creating a pattern that come up with the model that based on this model the developer can use it, okay? So all users in ASEAN might feel comfortable to use the design. Itu based kepada localization lah. Saya punya niche ialah on the localizations, looking on the mental model. Okay, macam UX lah tu UX. Okay, so dulu kan orang fikir macam dulu industri dia katakan bila you keluar graduate, okay, your what you learn, okay, not match with the industry. Perasan tak? Ni selalu orang kata isu dia macam tu. The student that we produce, okay, might not fit with the industry kan. So industri ni pun katalah, dia cakap ni lah universiti lah yang salah ajar lain tapi yang kita perlukan di industri lain. Dulu cakap macam tu, but actually they already realise, okay, realise that there is a different pattern sebenarnya. Okay, ada lain lah sebenarnya. Okay, sebenarnya industri yang perlukan academician ni or researcher ni untuk create a new things, a unique thing. Okay, kalau all the system are same, kan? So it can create a competitor. Satu lagi orang boring lah. Tengok sistem sama je pattern dia kan. So sekarang terbalik sebenarnya. Okay, industri ni lah yang kena ambil ataupun masukkan elemen research ni yang what you have learned in school, okay, in university, okay, to adapt in the system. Bukan lagi kita ikut prinsipal yang sama, follow itu, follow ini. Kita ada masukkan UX. Example that now, okay, we don't use waterfall, agile, itu semua yang lama-lama. Now we have apa tau? Emotional model design, where we create a system based on emotion. Okay, kita tahu kita nak tarik perhatian orang, okay, dengan bring a positive attitude kan, supaya orang tengok tu macam, pernah tak you buka website ataupun you tengok something game ke kan, you seronok, you rasa seronok je main game ni, ataupun you rasa macam sedap je mata memandang macam tu kan. So that's the UX actually. That's why emotional design model can help you lah to bring all the positive element in your system development or system software development. So kita main dengan emosi, something like that lah. That's why dekat Malaysia lah dulu tak berapa in lah, sebab Malaysia ni just realise that there is a need to include this UX lah, because we know that people change, right? Generation change, culture, environment, so there is a change lah in our thinking, something like that. So tak boleh follow on that standard sahaja. Tapi because we are learning about software engineering lah, that's I want to share with you lah. So nanti kalau keluar, so maybe you are not focusing on one specific standard development saja. Sekarang you boleh apply many things. If you learn about the emotions, you can apply emotion in your system development. If you learn about apa selain daripada emosi, yang you boleh include users. Put it as simple lah. Jajan apa? Keropok, makanan ringan. Okay, makanan ringan. So it was designed, maybe it was designed yang kita nak buka dia, tarik macam ni kan. Tapi people have a different way how to eat the jajan kan, the keropok tu kan. Sometimes they get the keropok and then they open it differently. Kan, you pernah nampak tak dia buka macam ni, dia kopek macam ni, dia gigit kan. So designer, developer of the product might need to taking into consider lah the UX. Different people, we try to create of course lah, kita tak boleh fulfill all users, but we try to put as many as users can use our product, our system, our software. Okay, that's why lah include jugalah yang special need kan. Kadang-kadang kita buat satu sistem tu, kita lupa yang there is a people that have special need kan, macam kurang dia punya 5 sense tu, tak nampak, tak boleh mendengar. So we try also to include that users in developing our system, something like that lah. Okay, I think that's all. Okay, so I just sharing based on the trending now lah, because This is only about the theory and principle. After this, okay, we might explore more that we have also UX. That's my research interest lah on the software engineering. So not only following the basic, but you should know lah the basic and try to modify it improve it. Macam orang buat game kan. Dulu game sama je kan. Susun dulu game apa tu yang brick tu, susun brick tu. Okay. Sekarang orang dah ada macam-macam game. Candy Crush, dia play dengan game. Pernah tak you buka Candy Crush? Apa you nampak word yang pertama keluar bila you buka Candy Crush tu? Crush your stress away kan? Apa? You swap your stress away. Macam tu lah kan? So it play with your emotion sebenarnya. So it's not only using a waterfall already. So it have emotional design, it have gamification element. Macam tu lah. So that's inilah the involvement of software engineering development lah, design and development. Okay. Okay, ada soalan? I think that's all on the system architecture. So and we finish software design. Next week we are touching a new topic which is software construction. Meaning that after you dah design, sekarang you nak implement. Itu construction lah, implement. Okay, ada soalan? Tak ada, boleh faham? Boleh faham kan? Why we should have system architecture design in our process. Okay, so this is phase by phase. Okay, we learn how to create a software or a system, and it's good also for your FYP later on. Okay, kalau tak ada soalan, setakat ni tiada, so far so good. Alright, hopefully the answer is so good also. Okay, next week lah, selepas saya marking lah, kita tengok betul-betul understand ke the whole topic ni kan. But interesting. Okay. So sometimes I would like to share the current one lah, because I love to do a research on user behavior. Nak bungkus nasi lemak ke kan, ada yang dalam plastik, ada yang dalam pisang. Kenapa ada yang bungkus dalam pisang? Kenapa ada yang bungkus dalam plastik? Kenapa ada yang bungkus dalam Tupperware? Which one yang you interest more? So banyaklah ada UX dia. Okay. Daun pisang wangi. Actually not only wangi. Bukan saja wangi kan, dia ada perasa dia sekali kan akan masuk dalam makanan tu. Even sekarang dah canggih kan, ada pisang yang ada pisang pula, ada nasi lemak yang dalam bekas-bekas. Saya still looking pisang yang dibungkus dalam daun pisang ni, because of the taste mungkin kan. So all that are user experience. So you know your users, you know your target users. Okay, that's why orang kata kalau you are giving a project, try to research, dig out your target user first or the problem first. Okay, solution dia kejap je. You dah kenal siapa user you, apa problem yang you nak solve, solution dia senang je. Itulah tu. Yang susah ialah requirement. Sebab itulah kita panjang kita ada requirement kan. Software requirement tu penting. Because if the requirement is good, your system will be smooth lah to be developed. Alright. Thank you everyone. If no questions, I see you next week for the new topics of software construction. Alright, so don't forget to sign in attendance. Okay, sign in attendance, jangan lupa. So we'll see the result for next week lah. Alright, thank you everyone. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you Rasa.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you, Rota.